Welcome everyone to episode 83 of the Circle Back Podcast, the show where three great friends get together and just talk about video games. I'm Dan LaMarca. As always, I'm joined by Dan Dufresnoy.
Hey everybody, how you guys doing?
And Shelby White.
How we doing, everyone?
I am doing well. Daniel.
You know what? It's time to really think about it, and I'm not going to let it bother me anymore.
You know what I'm going to start doing? Before I say Shelby White, I'm going to say, doing good, Dan, thanks. And Shelby White. That's what I'm going to start doing.
No, like I said, it's fine, you know?
I shouldn't keep ignoring you. You're right.
No, Dan, it's okay. I know how you feel.
He's so complacent now. He caused such a hubbub about it last week.
He's come to terms with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to start off like we have been lately. How are you guys doing? How are we holding up? Anything new? Anything bugging you? Anything, what's going on?
I'm starting to really feel the effects of being stuck inside and having, like at first it was, all right, here's some time off, like rest, still working and everything like that, but a little rest from having to bounce around all the time, like going place to place. But now I'm feeling like the stir craziness, like my body's hurting. I'm like, all right, I just want to go outside and go back to my normal shit again,
Right.
That sort of stuff. Like my body's realizing that I need some sun, I need to move around. There's only so much shit you can do inside.
Yeah, we went
rainy.
Yeah, yesterday it was a nice day, and we went to like a local beach where there was like nobody there, and just walked around for like an hour. It was nice.
Nice.
But Dan, how you holding up? You doing okay?
Yeah, doing okay, man. How you been?
I've been all right. I had a few days off from work, so I've been enjoying those days, because for me this doesn't really feel like, the only reason it feels like a quarantine is because I haven't seen my friends or my parents. Right. But I'm still working my normal full-time hours, if not more. So the days off that I just had in a row have been very nice. So I'm enjoying that. It also afforded me time to beat Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Ooh,
awesome.
Good for you, man.
Yeah. I know all three of us are playing it. I'm obviously not going to spoil anything. I will say, do you know that feeling when you're playing a game and you're just like, I love this. Like, that's what I had throughout the entirety of my 36 hours in this game. I was just like, I love this. Like, I'm absolutely loving it as I'm playing it. And there are parts that are frustrating, and there are parts that go on a little bit too long. But it just gave me that feeling that, like, the great games give you, where it's just like, man, this is so good, like, all the time. I kept thinking that.
Did you ever have, walk into an area? I mean, I had it too, and I just walk into an area and I just look around. For like 5 minutes.
Oh yeah,
great! This is amazing.
Well, the game is beautiful, and it's so much fun to like enter a new area and be like, holy shit, look at this, check this out.
Right.
There's not much to, like, it's a very linear game, so it's not like you're going off the beaten path and finding something cool. Like, there's not a lot of that, but just the locations themselves are like really, really fun to just like, gaze upon and check out and stuff. So.
For sure.
Where are we all at in the game? I know I just said I beat it. I know Dan got it a couple weeks later than us, or at least a week later than us.
I'm in chapter 8, so I don't know. This isn't. Everybody knows Aerith, so This is where Aerith fighted a bit. So I'm at that stage in the game, and I'm you know what, I know I was hesitant last time we talked, but I'm so glad I got it, and it's absolutely incredible. I was telling Dan before this that every gripe that I had, and again, this game, they're going to make other sequels and stuff like that, so there's still time to ruin it, but as of now, I mean, every issue I had with it, they've tweaked and they've made better, and I mean, there's nothing I can complain about it.
Well, there's something I need to clarify with you about that. Are you saying in comparison to the original? You're happy with the changes? That's what you're saying?
Totally. 100%.
Because, I'm not going to give anything away here. But I don't necessarily think the word remake in the title means what you think it means.
What do you mean?
I think that's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay.
A very ambiguous statement there.
This game does some things that I really, really love, and in the way that it plays with the structure of the game and people's expectations, and there's a lot of meta stuff going on in multiple layers, and I think it's really, really effective, like 95% of the time in what it's doing. This is a game where the second Dan and Shelby, you guys are finished with this game, we are sitting down and doing a spoiler cast because there's a lot to talk about, especially in the final hours.
I guess I should wait, but it changes on the original, so I'm not sure what you mean by by what you were saying. Is that
and you shouldn't like you won't until you're finished, and then we can talk.
I mean,
I'm excited for that.
Things that I had issues with. And not gonna lie. Now thinking about it, I mean, there's still some things that bother me. Some characters are still, like we've talked about Barrett before. Barrett, they didn't really change that. He's still, he's still a little too. He's still Mr. T.
Here's something interesting because I was reading like facts about the game. They tried to do that. Like he was based off of Mr. T.
Yes.
Around that time.
But the problem is Mr. T was a caricature in his time, and in 1997 they probably should have known that Mr. T is a stereotype, and you shouldn't. Yeah. So I'm glad that again, I don't want to say too much. Barrett gets his moments to shine and be able to like tell the world and the screen like what he believes in, and that stuff's
he also
awesome.
gets to express more than one emotion.
Yeah, and so they've definitely done a very, very good job with him overall. The funny part is this first opening part, the part that was the demo, like that whole hour or whatever, is like I think like one of the weakest parts of the game. Like
now, I didn't play the demo. What was
it's
the demo?
The first reactor. It's very beginning, like
all right.
There's a little bit. There's like a cutscene before the demo, and then basically the demo starts when the train pulls in the beginning.
Okay, so you just missed the opening cinematic. Basically.
Yeah, and that part, I mean, it's good. It shows off the combat well, but it's like as far as the story, like it's the most like disjointed like character interaction in the whole game. Like the way these characters develop and form relationships in this game is like one of the best parts of the entire game.
Right.
And so like it's funny that that part was the demo, and of course it's the beginning of the game, so it's a good part to have as a demo usually. But it's really not showing off like what the game is doing so well,
Right. I'm at currently. I know Dan. I think you just said you were at like chapter 8.
Yeah.
I'm at chapter 14 at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm at one of the points where you have a bunch of side quests to do again, and I actually finished them all except for one because I can't figure out how to finish it.
Which one is it?
Don Corneo's vaults.
Yeah.
So like I'm running around and I can't. One of the things I have to do is go into the sewer, and I can't get back into the sewer. I don't know how to do that. So.
Right. So the only this is something. There are two things that people should know about this game, and one of them, like before they get to it, one of them is that. So I'll tell you, Shelby, the main story takes you back to Don Corneo's place.
Oh, okay.
Do that, and then during that time, you'll get the next step of that quest, and then you need to like stop and finish it.
Oh, right.
And then continue the main story. Okay.
That makes sense.
That's something they do not signpost well.
Yeah, I was like, I know where the sewer is, but I don't know how to get back into it.
Right.
So, all right, cool. All right, that makes sense.
The second thing that people need to know, because I made a huge mistake twice doing this, is there's a point, it's right after where Shelby's at, where it says like, hey, are you ready to do this? Because you better finish up any unfinished business you have. Like, it's a point of no return kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very clear about it. They tell you, go finish a side quest. They basically tell you. What they don't tell you is that you have another like 7 to 10 hours after that. So when you get to that point of no return, you might be like, "Ooh, there's like 2 hours left." It's 10 o'clock at night. I could finish this. Like, do not be me. And do that. It is not the best way to play that game. Doing the final boss at 5:30 in the morning and getting frustrated is not ideal. It was so funny. I ended up, obviously I won't talk about it, but I ended up doing the final boss 3 tries at 5:30 in the morning and getting frustrated, and I shut it off and came back in the morning and beat it first try, no problem. Like, I was just like, it was one of those where I'd been playing for too long and I was too tired, it was too late. And I was just, it's that Dark Souls feeling of like, all right, I need to put this down for a minute. I'll come back, and he, the boss was no problem. So
nice.
But yeah, it's very deceiving, and there are multiple points in that game where you're like, oh, is this where it's gonna end? Oh, is this where it's gonna end? Like, it keeps doing that to you. So it's like, give yourself breaks on that final section. Don't try to do it all in one sitting.
Perfect. All right, good to know.
Yeah, it's something you should know. It's something I wish I knew. But yeah, let me hear some thoughts. I mean, we've just talked about where we are and some little things here and there, but Dan, you said you're pretty pleased with some of the changes they're making.
Right. So I think for me, one of my biggest gripes, actually maybe more it was a gripe because I beat the original game, and I just had so many questions, and a lot of that revolved around Cloud and Sephiroth's relationship. I really like what they're doing with their relationship here. It appears very different from what I remember of the original game, where and you said it best yourself, that like Sephiroth is sort of a ghost, and it seems like every interaction with Sephiroth, it seems like there was like a real past there. That there's stuff that already happened, that Sephiroth, he might be some sort of ghost, and I really like that. I think that's really, really interesting. I think it's more interesting than the first time playing it through. And asked me about that guy Roche, I'm sorry, from the original game. Yeah, he's totally new. He's totally a new guy.
Yeah,
and it's like a complete utter delight, because he's just so much and so over the top.
But it's so good.
I thought he was great. I loved him.
That segment is so much fun, and that entire I really think, and we'll get into more details on the spoiler cast when we do it, but I really think that's the section that sold me, where I was like, okay, this is fun. I like this combat. But the story is the same old, your average anime thing. And then that section where you go to Jesse's house and you do all that stuff, and then you have that fight with Roche, and then you have the other fight, and then Roche comes in, and it's like that whole bit, it made me realize, like, okay, there's some new blood that's making this game. It's not the same old people. And sure enough, like, as the game goes on, there's more and more of that. And I just love the way they ride this fine edge of being super serious and having a lot of fun. And it's like the way that stuff all intermingles is so well done in this game, and such a nice surprise.
Yeah, for eco-terrorists, they're really having a great time,
Chapter 8, Dan, you already did the second reactor, right?
Right.
What?
Correct. Yep.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, that part where you parachute down.
Yeah.
is just so funny, where Wedge is like, he hurts his butt, and it's that whole thing, and it's like, sorry about your ass. Like, I just can't get, like, I love that tone, and they come back to that like numerous times, and it's so goofy and so fun. Once we do the spoiler cast, we could talk about like all the stuff at Wall Market. Like, it's just so much fun and so ridiculous. It's so fucking awesome.
Are you guys fans of Breaking Bad?
Oh, you're talking about because it's Badger?
Badger.
Yeah.
I was like, I know that voice from anywhere. And I looked it up and I was like, oh my gosh, that's him.
There's actually a weird history there. When they first showed that they were doing the remake, they they showed like a cinematic that Wedge was in, and it was an actor that sounded a lot like Badger from Breaking Bad. And everyone was like, holy shit, that's Badger playing Wedge. And he tweeted out in 2015 when they showed this, he said, I am not playing Wedge in Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's not my voice, whatever. And then he ends up being in the damn game. It just was such a weird thing of like, so did they hear from people that it sounded like him? And they're like, oh, let's talk to him and see if he'll do it. It's such a weird thing.
I also like how Biggs looked exactly like Charlie Sheen in Platoon. Like exactly
identical.
Like, seriously, with the red bandana and everything, it's like, it's just so good. And even those characters, Biggs, Wedge, Jesse, like they're giving you more.
They were like nothing. Yeah, they were like nothing characters.
You just okay. Here's these characters, and then I don't want to spoil because I'm sure it follows the same thing as the 7th. They were just sort of throwaway characters, and here they are. Like you're actually getting to know them. Jesse's like I such a important person. I mean, it's love that they're giving the time these characters into this world, and I think that's what's making me enjoy it. Is that it's not anything.
Absolutely. And the thing that I'll say is the worry that a lot of people had was, hey, this is like a, 5 to 7 hour portion of Final Fantasy VII, and you're making it into like a 40-hour RPG. So people were like, oh, is this going to be all filler? What are we going to get? Yada, yada. And it's like, what you end up getting is deeper dives into the world and better, deeper interactions with the characters and new experience, like, the same fights with the Turks, but new characterization of the Turks and new discussions about different members of Shinra and stuff like that. Like, you're doing deeper dives into everything, and it makes it such a rich experience comparatively, in my opinion.
Sounds like what they did to The Hobbit when they made the movie.
Well, for me, The Hobbit was what I didn't want to happen, because what they did was they did a lot of that was the filler, in my opinion, where like a lot of the stuff was like, okay, like this isn't that interesting, I'm not that interested in this experience, whatever, blah blah blah. And that's kind of the fear for this. But number one, the stuff they end up doing feels like new and interesting. But number two, they're going their own route here, and we'll dive more into it in the spoiler cast. But it's like it feels like this is its own thing that has a framework in one of the most famous games in history, but they're kind of doing their own thing. The only thing that I'll say, so I'll talk. I want to hear what you've been thinking about it, Shelby. But real quick, I just want to say. I'm talking about how much I love this game. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite games of the year, if not my favorite. But there are issues with it. A lot of the dungeons go on a little bit too long. There are a few in particular. For me, the train graveyard was a little bit too long, Shelby. And then one of the ones you haven't seen yet is a little bit too long. Revisiting the sewers can be, hey, we've already been here, yada, yada. Little things like that are like, okay. And then the whenever you get to like a puzzle section, it just seems totally unnecessary and a way of just like padding the length of the game. And it's like, you didn't need this. Like the stupid arm puzzles when you're with Aerith, you know what I'm talking about?
No.
The robot arms that you have to move.
Oh, right. Yes.
There's a couple
there
of
didn't
things.
Need to be as many as there were.
Yeah, and there are a couple of things that are similar to that happen throughout the game, and it's like, we don't need this. We really don't need this. And
right. It was funny that you bring up that one, because I remember thinking the exact same thing while it was happening. Like while I was going through it, it was such an easy concept that we didn't need the first two puzzles to figure out how to do it. You know, it's like you're halfway through a game and they're doing a tutorialization through a dungeon on how to move robotic arms. And it's like, okay, I know how to do this. Like,
right. And so they continue to do things like that are just like, okay. Like there's some things that are just like slower than they should be. And it kind of puts a damper on the pacing a little bit, because I think the game is very well paced except for the side quests. I think the side quests, the way they dump them at the same time, so it'll be like, oh, here's 6 new side quests,
right? And it's like every 6 chapters or so is like,
right,
oh,
and then it's
a bunch of side quests to do.
Here's a bunch, and that stuff kind of throws off the pacing too. Whereas if you were doing like one here and there, it wouldn't have felt as much of like a halt on the main story. But I mean, those are optional, and you don't have to do them. I very rarely did the side quests feel like they warranted my time. I did them all, and I ended up being like, I don't know if I really needed any of this. Like, I'm just doing it to do it. And I mean, luckily the combat is super fun and interesting throughout the game. But if it wasn't, I think I would have ended up being like, oh, I don't want to do any of these side quests. These suck.
It feels very much like, you remember in Skyrim where it'd be like, oh, go fight these guys because they have my shield. That's what it like. This feels.
Yeah, like there's not a lot of story involvement in there. There's like little bits here and there, like, you know, with the kids that are on the neighborhood watch and in Sector 5, whatever.
Right.
Like there's little things that are like, okay, that's cool, that's fine. But for the most part, it's like, I don't need to do this. I don't need to go kill these, you know, fucking dogs for the junk dealer. Like, I don't need that.
There was one in one of the side quests I just did, like getting stuff for a doctor, required you to do like 3 other side quests just to complete his.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. I do like some of one of those side quests in particular, like ends in a cool boss battle. I think like 2 or 3 of them do actually, but like one of those was a cool boss battle. Really, it's just for more experience stuff and to experience some other parts of the game. But I know exactly what you mean in that if I had done none of these side quests, my reaction to the game would not have been hindered or anything.
Exactly.
You know, like I would have gotten.
And that's really what I'm saying is like, what is it? What are they adding other than more hours?
Yeah,
like that's what it feels like for me. And it's a shame, but it definitely didn't like bring anything down, because like I said, the combat is so much fun. And I do want to I want to talk specifics about the combat. But before we do that, Shelby, do you want to just give me like an overview? Like, what have you been thinking? Like, you know, have your thoughts like waxed and waned? Have you been enjoying it? What have you been doing? Because you're pretty far in.
Yeah, similar to what you were saying before, like especially for the first, I want to say I'm like 20 hours in, maybe a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
And same exact feeling. Like the first, just playing through it, I'm like, damn, I really like this. I like this game a lot. I like the way it feels. You know, like I'm happy that I'm getting into a Final Fantasy game, having been somebody who has never really played any. So like playing this game is just a lot of fun. I like the combat system and everything is mind blowing to me. I wish there were more games exactly like this. You know,
there will be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
People are gonna rip this system off.
I freaking love. I mean, yeah. Look at all the Dark Souls like games that we have nowadays. But yeah. No, I freaking love it. You know, and as somebody who never played through the first one, I have a different experience. Like, I know that I'm sure they changed some stuff around from the original game as far as story. So like you guys get to experience a nostalgic aspect on some stuff while experiencing new stuff, and then for myself, it's all new. So like when something happens, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. You know, like I have no expectations, which is why I think I'm enjoying the crap out of this game.
So here's the thing, and you know, I don't want to keep saying it, but I'm gonna keep saying it. We will talk more in the spoiler cast, but I will say, I think if you have not played the original, you can totally you can say like, hey, this is an enjoyable experience. I loved it. It's so interesting.
Yeah, I feel like
it feels like you're missing. You're definitely missing out, because the game plays with the fact that it knows that the player knows certain things.
Dan, I was thinking the
Right.
same exact thing the whole time. I was like, they're messing with you a little bit. It's
And
like
Right.
they're familiar
and
with the fact that you know it.
in the final 5 hours of the game, it becomes very explicit and it becomes very interesting. And that's why I'm saying, like, I do not want to talk specifics about it, but it is a game that can be experienced on its own and enjoyed on its own. But Shelby, I'd be stunned if you didn't finish this game and then say, okay, I either need to watch a playthrough or do a playthrough of the original.
Mm-hmm. No, it's actually funny. I think I don't remember if I mentioned this last time, like with Barrett singing when you're fighting and stuff like that. And it was actually like every time you win a battle in the first one, like I didn't pick up on that, but when I played like the first 5 hours or the first couple of chapters, I went back and I was like watching a playthrough to see if they did any differences in the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Story wise, not really, but I noticed that and I was like, oh, that's what he's fucking singing, you know, like. So yeah, playing through it, I'm like, I'm definitely missing stuff, but I'm excited to definitely finish it and then go back, like you said, and watch a playthrough probably.
Yeah, and what I'll say is because I want to dive into the combat specifics and talk about that a little bit, but before we do that, I just want to say the new release, the HD version of Final Fantasy VII that's out on Switch and PS4, they have a lot of interesting tools that allow you to get through the game quickly. There's a mode that you can put on that gives you like unlimited, like full limit break, and you can fast forward the battles. So you can just kind of mash your way through the battle. It basically makes it so that there isn't much time spent battling, and it's more of just the story. And so I've heard from people that like playing through it on Switch, it's like a 20-hour game. If you do all those things, and if you just want the story, that could be an interesting way to do it.
That sounds very interesting. It's funny actually. After our last after our last podcast, I went back and I was looking up the best way to play like Final Fantasy VI because I know Dan was saying it's one of his tops of all time.
It is, yeah. Both of ours, yeah. It's literally one of the best games ever made.
So I was looking through a bunch of ways and I was like, oh, let me check that out here because I know Switch put like almost all the games on there, depending on what the best way is to play them. So I was looking at 7, I was looking at 6, I was looking at 8.
Yep.
I might go back and play a couple.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how you felt after this game. If you're like, I have a feeling you're going to be like itching to be like, I need to know what this first game was.
Yeah. Also, well, I heard that you were just saying that we have a 40-hour game that really took place between 5 to 7 hours in the first one. Now, obviously, the first game was like a 40-hour game on its own. So, like they said, this game will be released in several remakes, right? So we're just getting a certain section of the game.
Exactly. And that's the other interesting aspect of it is, should you go and play the original game? The answer is definitely yes, but there will be, I don't want to get too much into it, but like there will be things in future games that you will spoil for yourself by playing the first one, the original. But because of the way it looks like it's going, I think that's almost like context that you should have because of the way that they're changing it. Mm-hmm. You know?
Right.
But anyway, let's get out of the weeds on that stuff before I say something. The combat system. So last episode, we didn't talk much about it. We just said it felt great to play. But I want to talk about specifics because number one, the stagger system I think is really, really cool. Where like each enemy has a different way that they can be staggered. And once you get the assess materia, you can assess the enemy and it'll say like, oh, rapid physical attacks will stagger this enemy, or this enemy's weak to fire, so hitting it with fire spells will rapidly fill its stagger gauge. Once that stagger gauge is full, the enemy becomes like downed for a certain amount of time, and then you just wail on it and whittle it down pretty quickly. And all of this works with bosses as well. So the game is kind of a combo of do you want to just put out pure damage, or do you want to damage that stagger gauge to try to knock it down and then finish it off?
Right. It immediately reminded me of Sekiro's posture system.
Posture meter.
Yeah.
It's got similarities. It is very different, but it's definitely in that same vein of like, what do you want to do? Do you want to just hurt him, or do you want to like put him in a stunned state?
Right.
And then I'll say, so the main way that the combat works is you can switch between characters on the fly, or you can control one character and then hit either trigger to cycle through the other characters and use their abilities. Mm-hmm. And the way that this works is that it makes the game, I don't think I've ever, a lot of games, you look at Final Fantasy 15 and like some of the more action-oriented ones, like a lot of these JRPGs have been moving towards a Western like style instead of turn-based combat. I have never seen something so elegantly done as this combat system, how it actually feels like a tactical, like, cerebral combat system that you're actually doing commands on. And especially as you get late in the game and you need to be constantly switching between characters and using different buffs and debuffs and all these different things, like it is just so fun and satisfying in a tactical way that I did not expect. I was afraid that because we had said it so many times leading up to this game, it's like, man, Final Fantasy 15's combat is so boring and it's so like tedious, and I'm so glad that this is completely different than that.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because when I first first hour or so, I was like, and I love JRPGs, and even though they can be tedious and grindy, I was like, oh man, like I feel like I'm gonna miss that sort of like turn-based, calculating each move, what spell am I gonna use, but holy moly, once you get into some of those battles, you're absolutely right. I mean, you got to think, you got to swap characters, you got to like, okay, I'm going to use this spell first, I'm going to stagger. And like, I was really surprised by how actually thoughtful it is. It's not just a hack and slash. You really got to have it if you want to win. I mean, I got beat a few times and I was like, all right, I really should think this through before I just go right in.
Yeah.
No, I agree. It still is almost like a turn-based system, just so much faster paced. But my favorite thing, obviously, is being able to hit X or L2 and R2 and slow down the time and be able to consciously make a decision without being like, oh, damn, I hit the wrong button, like in the heat of the moment sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, no, I just am so in love with that system that I'm so excited that they came up with this, and this is the first of what's probably a trilogy of games, and it's like it just gets me so excited, not only because I absolutely love the directions they go with the story, but this combat system. It's like, you guys have it, you have the combat system, it's the first game and you nailed it. So like I'm just so stoked to just continue through with the next two games once they come out.
Right.
Unless anyone has anything to add, I think we'll probably wrap our Final Fantasy talk there, because like I said, once we're all finished, we are going to do a full spoiler cast episode where we get into the nitty gritty of the story. I took notes as I was playing this game because early on I was like, oh, we're definitely going to need to do a spoiler cast. So I have a ton of stuff written down, like different things we could talk about and discuss. So super excited for that once we're all finished. No rush, though. I don't want you to feel rushed, Dan. Take your time. Play at your pace.
I'll have it beaten by tonight. Don't worry.
You have like 20 hours.
You have more than 24 hours in it.
All right, guys, I got to go. I got to get on this.
Any last thoughts of Final Fantasy VII Remake?
No, I'm excited to finish it up.
I think my last thought is I'm very pleasantly surprised. I truly, genuinely love this game, and I'm really pleasantly surprised. Like, it's so many sour feelings on Final Fantasy VII. Just how overrated it was. No, man, like playing this game, like I'm loving every second of it. It's incredible.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's our long Final Fantasy VII Remake talk. But there are other games that have come out since the last episode that we did, including the surprise announcement and subsequent release of XCOM Chimera Squad. So this is a small bite-sized XCOM game. It's not a full release. It's a $20 game. I believe it's only on PC right now. But it is... I've been playing it. I played about 4 or 5 hours. A lot of changes from XCOM 2. But it is really, really good, and I'm absolutely loving it. The biggest things that they changed. So I don't know. I think you both at least have some experience with XCOM, but I know not much. It used to be your team goes and then the enemy team goes, right? In this, it's more like a Darkest Dungeon style. Each character on the board has a certain turn order. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see okay, this guy's going to go, and then this enemy's going to go, and then my guy's going to go, and then this enemy's going to go. So it completely changes how the game feels because you're not setting up big turns. You're all right, what's my most important thing that this guy can do before this enemy goes? And it's a huge change for these games, but I'm really, really enjoying it. There are abilities that push enemies back in the turn order. So you'd be all right, this guy's going to go next and my guy's out in the open. So I want to knock him down a few turns. So you use an ability on him. He gets knocked down to the bottom of the turn order. Now my guy's a little bit safer, for that turn. They added something called basically a breaching system where you are basically setting up at different entrance points into buildings or parking lots or wherever you're breaching into. And what you're doing is say there's 2 entrances to this building. It'll be a door and a window. You're choosing which of your 4 squad mates are going in which entrance. And each entrance has its own unique characteristics. So it'll be all right, from this entrance, your agents are likely to take a lot of damage because there are more aggressive enemies watching that window or something, right?
Yeah.
And it'll also say there will be a random thing attached to it. So it'll say the first squad member through the door gets a plus 20% accuracy bonus. Or it might be a negative where it's the last enemy through the door is disabled for 1 turn. So you're making choices on which entrance you want them to go in. So sometimes you might be hey, I want all 4 to go through this door because I'm worried about how dangerous that other entrance is. But you're limiting your sight lines, So if you all go through the same door, you can all have the same shots at the enemies. Whereas if you go through 2, you might have a flanking shot on somebody. And super, super interesting. And one more big change that I'll mention before I get into the setup of this game is if a squad member dies, it's mission failure, which is absolutely a huge change for XCOM because these games have always been your squad members will die and they die permanently, and then you have to replace them with new guys. So this one is
I hate that part.
So this one is very character driven. So every single character that you get as part of your squad is a unique, discrete person with their own unique abilities. So it's not you do have skill points that you're awarding to unlock different skills on one side of the tree or the other, but each character's skill tree is unique with their unique abilities. So it's this special ability, let's say there's a demolition ability where you can destroy an enemy's cover. Only one of your characters will have that. Or it might not be completely unique, but it might be 1 or 2 of your characters throughout the entire game will have the capabilities of ever getting that ability.
So keep everyone alive, huh?
Oh, okay.
Well, not that, because you can only send 4 in at a time. So it makes it more these are unique heroes that you're choosing what team you want to go in, rather than okay, I want 1 heavy, 1 sniper, 2 assault, and then you're planning your moves. You know what I'm saying? This is more here heroes, what squad do I want to go in? Oh, this guy has this ability that works well with this, yada yada, you know.
Your team building, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a very different feel, but it works really, really well. I'm definitely enjoying this game quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean that adds an extra layer of tactics, you know, like before
it does, and it's like a different layer of tactics. You know what I'm saying? Like it's they're trying new things here, and I'm curious if they're testing the waters for like an XCOM 3, where they're like, "Ooh, let's see how this goes over," and let's see, you know, because it's a $20 game. It's $10 still up until I think like the first week of May, and
I'm actually on Steam at the moment. Every XCOM game is on sale right now.
Yeah, they're having a big sale for the launch of this game, but this game in particular is 50% off, like for the first 2 weeks of its release or whatever. The story, we'll talk about it a little bit. You're a Chimera squad, which is after the events of XCOM 2. You're in this place called City 31, and it's basically like a bastion of hope for humans, hybrids, and aliens, like all living together. So like, you know, Advent was taken down, but there are still people that, you know, there's still alien races that are still here, and not all of them were like loyal to the cause. Some of them were forced into it and whatever. Like there's a lot of like interesting story stuff around that, and it's way more story based in general. Like there's a lot of like character selection, like character specific conversations. So like if you have two people on a squad together, they might like make comments to each other and do little. It feels kind of like a Mass Effect 2 thing, where it's like, oh, I want to bring this guy on the same squad as this guy because they might have something interesting to say to each other, you know, like that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's really fun.
Awesome.
Like, yeah, it's interesting for an XCOM game, which is oftentimes can feel a little less like narrative, a little less like character driven. I think they started doing some of this stuff with War of the Chosen, which was the expansion for XCOM 2, where they're messing around a lot more with, like, they know that people like building their own narratives around these characters, so they're like, why don't we just build some narratives around the characters instead of just, you know, making the fandom do that. The cutscenes have like a comic book art style that's pretty interesting. And yeah, I think overall, I like this game a lot. I think you can feel that it's a budget game. Like it definitely has some bugs, and you know, certain mission breaking things have happened, but they're all such small bite-sized missions that it doesn't feel too bad even when something goes wrong. Like I think the longest mission I've been on has been like 15-20 minutes, which is a big change from the original and XCOM 2, where a lot of times you're in a mission for like an hour. So it's more like, hey, breach in, take the enemies out. Like I've played a lot of games where like I've beat the mission in like 1 or 2 turns, which is an interesting change because it's more like you're on the offensive. And part of that is this is the interesting line that they're riding, right? Because basically your squad is like the cops, and you're like busting down doors to take down the bad guys. Now the reason that I don't just write it off immediately as like, ugh, this is like boring like cop fiction, where like, because for the most part XCOM has always been like, hey, we're like revolutionaries banding together, like trying to stop this, you know, alien invasion, especially XCOM 2, where it was like, hey, the aliens won, now we're starting up this like, you know, grassroots organization to try to take down the aliens from the inside. Like that was a really interesting premise. So I was kind of rolling my eyes like, are you serious? Like it's like we're the cops and we're literally like busting down drug dens and stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of weird. But the thing that's interesting is there are basically 3 major factions that you're going after, and you're kind of like going through one at a time through each of these like factions. So the one that I'm on now, I could tell that they're playing around with the crime fiction aspect of it, where they're like kind of, because you have squad members that are like very hoorah, like let's get the bad guys, but you also have people that are like, wait, like let's think about what's going on here, and they're having that dialogue out loud, and I think that it's doing something pretty interesting.
That is really cool.
Yeah. And yeah, like I mentioned, because these missions are so bite-sized, it feels a lot less punishing when something goes wrong. Like you're not like, oh, there goes 40 minutes of progress. You're not doing mid-mission saves like you were. It's more like, all right, let's roll through, and if it doesn't go well, we can just start over. And it feels more like an Into the Breach actually, where it's like, how do I do this in this amount of turns? And it's pretty cool. I definitely recommend this game. I'm really, really enjoying it.
Awesome,
last thing I'll say is they scale back the meta layer. The XCOM games always have like the on the ground, tactical combat, but then outside they have like, all right, you need to be juggling these different research projects and this and that. In this one, it's a map of City 31, which is the this city that's like the beacon of hope where all the humans, hybrids, aliens live together. And they all have, so there are a bunch of different districts. And instead of like the world map, it's just City 31 here. And you're kind of going like, juggling the fear or whatever it is. I forget what they call the level, like the panic level in each district. And it's interesting the way it's laid out, because you can basically like add little things. There are like little bonuses you can add to each district to like lower the level without going on a mission there. Because, like the other XCOM games, it's like, all right, if I don't do this mission in Africa, they're about to go to, level 5 panic and they're out of the XCOM initiative or whatever. So it's a similar idea to that, but it seems like you have a lot more wiggle room with like what you can do on the meta layer, rather than just, all right, I need to do this mission, otherwise this person's going to leave the XCOM,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the writing's good. I like the character interactions. Like I said, it feels Mass Effect 2-ish of like, I want to see what these two characters say to each other if I bring them in together, like that sort of thing.
It makes it interesting, man. I like that.
It really does, yeah. And I just think it's a really good game overall. It's definitely, like I said, it's a $20 game at max, because right now it's $10. But you can definitely feel the budget a little bit. It's not like a full-fledged giant game. It looks like there's those 3 factions, and you run through like a narrative with each faction, and then I'm assuming there might be like a big battle after that, or maybe a secret 4th faction that's the final one or whatever. But yeah, it seems like not a giant game like the other XCOM games, but it seems like it has a lot of meat there. Like I said, I played 4 or 5 hours. I'm still only on the first faction, working through that. So I'm really enjoying it.
Awesome, man.
XCOM Chimera Squad. A nice little surprise. I love XCOM games to begin with, so this feels like a really good one.
Great, man. That sounds really interesting. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really, really cool, and they're definitely playing around with that characterization big time. I think they know that their randomly generated characters are can be a little generic unless you are the type that is going to name all of them and create your own fiction for them and stuff like that. Like they're doing the work here, and it may not be 100% hits, but it's more hits than misses, and I've been enjoying it.
Great, man.
Let's talk about, because I know, Dan, you've just really been playing Final Fantasy, right?
Yeah, that's about it, man. I mean, just a little shout out. I played Animal Crossing. I got my little special visitor came to visit, but other than that, man, it's just been Final Fantasy.
Yeah. What do you think of the terraforming in Animal Crossing?
Oh, it's awesome, man. I wish I had it sooner. Once the like I completely I had an entire layout for my island, and then once I had the terraforming, I completely like revamped everything. I took every item that like I had, I put it, and I talk about OCD. It took me like 20 hours just to feel okay again because I put everything in my pocket and I just completely redid the layout and
Yeah.
came back. Now that I did that, I'm like tired and I kind of I'm crossing a break right now.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what Animal Crossing is, right? It's like, and the old ones too. It would be like you're hot and heavy with it at first, and then it's like a nice thing to check in on every once in a while, where it's not like, okay, I don't need to play every single day for an hour to make sure I get everything done.
Right.
Now it's like, hey, when I want to, I can just jump back in and play, and it'll be there.
Definitely, it'll always be there for me.
That's it. Shelby, I know that you've been playing a game that I am very excited to hear what you think about.
Right. So
Murder by Numbers.
yeah, I know you brought it up a couple of weeks ago, and I love puzzle games. Like I've been doing a lot of puzzles during the quarantine and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw Picross, I was like, or how do you pronounce it? Picross or
Yeah.
Picross?
Yeah, most people say Picross, but
Right.
I don't know.
So I saw that and I was like, well, let me try some of these. And I actually like just Googled like a couple of puzzles and loved it. So I was like, all right, well, Dan said this game Murder by Numbers was cool. And it has this as its, other than having a narrative, obviously, it has these Picross puzzles. So let me try it. Love it.
Yeah.
I've also discovered a new talent. I'm fucking good at these puzzles.
You are?
I'm very good at them. I don't
You're
know.
probably much better than me at them because I'm not good at them at all.
I don't know. I just get it, you know. So I'm about halfway through the game. I think I finished 2 cases. I just started the 3rd.
Okay. I'm at the end of the 3rd, and obviously I've been putting it down to play a lot of other stuff.
Right. So
I'm near the end of the 3rd. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, well, it feels like, well, the first case was pretty short. The second case, obviously, longer. I'm assuming the next 2 are either the same size or even longer.
Well, it's all
than
about,
that.
I mean, the thing that advances the story is you completing those puzzles. So if, the puzzles get bigger and more complex, so that's kind of what makes it longer.
And I've been doing all of the special puzzles, like in Scout's Memories.
Okay.
So I've been doing as soon as I like unlock more story stuff, I investigate the shit out of everything.
Right.
And I go into Scout's Memories and unlock those once I reach S rank and everything. So I'm having a blast, dude. I love it.
Dude, how good is the writing and all the characters?
It's very, very good writing.
It's so
and that was
good.
the thing I wasn't expecting to like. I was like, oh, like, all right, like, let me get through the narrative. I really want to do the puzzles and stuff like that. But it's like engaging. It's really engaging and funny at the same time.
Yeah. It's, I mean, you've played Phoenix Wright or no?
I've never played Phoenix Wright, no.
So it's very much like aping that Phoenix Wright style of like back and forth, like, the character silhouette will pop up on the right and then the pop up on the left and talk back to them, but it's like a lot of like noises, like a punch or something, and then you'll just see someone's face like bugging out, like way over the top, like anime style, but it really does it so well.
Yeah, definitely. And I like how like Scout's almost like a child who's learning stuff, and he like makes so many puns at the wrong time and shit. Like, it's funny.
I love Scout so much. I'm glad you're enjoying this game because
I really am. I'm enjoying
it's
the hell
something.
out of it.
It's something that I really like, and it's kind of like that sleeper. Hey, I really love this game. You should check it out. So I'm glad you found the time to do it.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
good on Switch. You've been playing on Switch.
I have been playing on Switch. Yeah. And
you do touch for the Picross stuff?
No, I've been using the buttons.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if there was any. I played on PC.
Oh, okay. You know what? I don't know if there is a touch.
There might not be.
I think I tried it and it wasn't doing anything, so I was just using the buttons.
Which works totally fine.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So Murder by the Numbers, you're enjoying.
Yeah, very much.
And yeah, I'll eventually get back to it once my tactics games are done. Because there is another that I've been playing the shit out of.
I was curious. I was going to ask, what are you playing?
Gears Tactics.
Yes. All right.
Gears
so since we're talking about XCOM, I was
yes, exactly. This is what's so interesting. So number one, how mad is the Coalition, the developer of Gears, that Firaxis announces and releases an XCOM game 4 days before Gears Tactics comes out, like out of nowhere. And Gears Tactics release date has been announced for like a year.
Some might say it was a tactic of theirs.
Yeah, exactly. A tactical decision by 2K. So the interesting thing. So number one, I've been playing both of these tactics games at the same time, and they are so different. And I'm so happy that they're so different because they're both great. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised when I had put in my 4 or 5 hours into Chimera Squad, and then Gears Tactics came out yesterday as of this recording. So I jumped in and I was like, I don't want to get burnt out on tactics games. I hope it's not too similar. It's so different feeling, but it is so, so good. To the point where, as of right now, I played about 5 hours of each. I would definitely recommend Gears Tactics over Chimera Squad.
Wow, really?
And I really like Chimera Squad. This is what's interesting. So Gears Tactics does a lot of interesting changes to the formula, and it does some old stuff as well that are different than Chimera Squad, because Chimera Squad is trying to be a different kind of XCOM game, whereas Gears Tactics sometimes feels like XCOM Enemy Unknown, the first game. Mm-hmm. So first of all, I've been taking notes. I'm just going to go through a couple things. The presentation, it feels like a full-fledged Gears game with cutscenes and stuff. Like it's a full-on Gears story, where you'll do a mission and then it'll cut to a big cutscene that advances the story and brings you through. This takes place before the first Gears of War. I think it's like 12 years before. And so it's like soon after Emergence Day. It's kind of like the initial group of cogs that are trying to figure out what they or Gears, right? COG is the coalition of governments,
right?
So it's like the initial group of Gears that are like figuring out everything and like seeing new enemies and being like freaked out kind of thing. So the whole premise of the game is this: there's this leader of the, what the hell is the name of the? It's not Lambent is when they're crazy. What's the normal?
Lambent is when they're crazy. Oh,
why am I blanking on this?
I just played these games.
Locust.
So, right.
There's this one Locust named Ukon who is like basically developing these new types of enemies. So like when they first emerged on E-Day, right? Mm-hmm. It was just like the regular Locust and the variations of them. So there were like, Locust, the regular like hammer, burst Locust, the snipers, the boomers, like basically every variation of that. And then the big and strange creatures are developed by this guy Ukon. He's like a mad scientist who was like figuring out how. So like a Brumac,
right,
was developed by this guy. So like the first time we come across a Brumac, it's like the first time they're really seeing one. So it's an interesting like concept. I mean, it's still a Gears story, so it's like it's not gonna like be revolutionary or anything too crazy, but at least they're playing around with their own fiction in an interesting way. The ragdoll and animations all feel exactly like a Gears of War game, even though this is like a tactics, very pulled out. Right. So like you'll pop a headshot and his head will explode, and the way they like weirdly ragdoll to the, like it really feels like
just drop to their
Gears
knees.
of War. Yeah. The tutorial mission I liked a lot, specifically if you're a new tactics player. It does a very good job of like explaining what they're doing, because some of the some of the changes that they're making are pretty different. Like, it's a very Overwatch heavy game from what I've seen, because you have a certain amount of skill point or like action points, right? So instead of in an XCOM game, it's like, okay, you can move and then you can shoot and that's the end of your turn, or you can shoot and that's the end of your turn. Like, you can't. In this game, it's like, hey, you have 3 actions. You can take them whenever you want. You could shoot 3 times. You can move 3 times. You can shoot twice, move once. However you want to do it, you can do it. And also the abilities all take 1 action. So like, it opens the door. Kind of the difference between this and specifically Chimera Squad is this game feels like the door's wide open for possibilities, like what you want to do. Like, it's a lot more freeform feeling, where Chimera Squad is like, okay, I need to puzzle this out and get the ideal scenario and move this guy here and shoot this guy to take him out so that he won't do anything. This is like, you have a ton of different ways to do things, and it's like, just go on and figure out the way that you want to do it, you know? And it feels really interesting. The way that the action points, not only the fact that you have 3 and you can use them however you want, but it gets interesting because there are a lot of ways to afford your team extra actions. So like, if you down an enemy, because they will go into like a downed state, bigger enemies like your normal hammer bursts, locusts, or the snipers, like I said, they'll all go to a downed state where they'll like get down on one knee, and then you can run up and execute them, just like Gears. If you execute an enemy, your entire squad, except for the person that did the execution, gains 1 action point. Oh. So you have this system that kind of, like, you're making decisions based on awarding your team extra actions so that they can then award the other members of the team extra like, you're like trying to chain things together in such an interesting, satisfying way. Like, I absolutely love the system that they built here. It is so good. Like,
good to hear.
But it really works like all right, I can put everyone, if everyone shoots this guy, he'll go down, and then this guy is close enough where he can run in, execute him. Now everyone else can do one more action, and then they can get to cover. So like, you're exposing yourself to, like, you're always like reaching like at the end of your rope. And it's like, all right, I better hit this shot because my whole plan like comes down on this, and then you do, and it feels great. Like that is like
satisfaction at its finest.
So satisfying in such a good way. The interesting thing is, it's such a different way than XCOM. Like, it doesn't feel like that, even though it is that same tactics-based, high cover, low cover, percentage shots. You can pull up this thing, like it's your tactical communications or something. You hit a button and it'll tell you why your shot is that percentage. So it's like, oh, I have a 75% shot. I wonder why. You hit R and it'll pop up and say obstructions -20, range -20, like scope on your weapon +10, whatever. Like, it'll break it down for you, and it's
right.
It's just so good. Like, I really, really love it. The other interesting thing is, so there's a lot of stuff. So they basically got rid of the meta layer in an XCOM. So like, I was talking about the city and you're messing with different districts in Chimera Squad, and you're trying to like manage, okay, this district is getting 2 panic. If it gets to 5, then it leaves, whatever. In this game, there's none of that at all. Instead, they've created a much deeper like skill tree and like weapon attachment system. So the skill tree, each class, so like, you have your support, which uses like a regular lancer. You have your assault, which uses like the old school lancer with the bayonet. You have sniper, you have like a heavy, all these different classes, right? They all have a skill tree that has 4 different endpoints. And you're kind of like going down a certain path depending on what you want to do. So like, for your assault class, you can make him like a tank, like a defensive powerhouse that like, gains, plus 75 or, minus 75% damage taken is like the end pip in the tree. Or you can make him like a super assault class where it's like every time you bayonet somebody, you gain 2 action points. So you can just kind of roll around and just keep doing it. And then there's another skill in that tree that's like every time you kill an enemy, your cooldown for the bayonet goes down by 1.
All right, cool. So you kind of customize your way through.
Big time customize your way through. Like it's so in depth, but you can literally just say like, okay, I'm going down the surgeon, skill tree for the main character, Gabe. So I'm just going to keep clicking these abilities and then figure it out later. Like you can totally do that. But if you want to look into it and see how you want your characters to be, like you can really get in the nitty gritty there. And it's super satisfying. I love the skill trees. I think they're great and they're so varied that it really feels like you can have 2 support people that feel completely different. Right. One is like constantly stunning enemies, and then the other one is constantly healing your allies. And they're both support class. The thing that I'm less high on, I think it's fine, but it's a little fiddly, is the weapon and armor attachment stuff. Mm-hmm. So they're not very, like, they don't feel unique, right? So it's like, okay, hey, you found a crate while you were exploring the world. Now here is a scope that gives you plus 7% accuracy, and here's boots that give you plus 15 HP, and they're very like minute numbers, and it like definitely makes a difference in the long run, especially as you stack all these on top of each other. But you have like 7 or 8 slots per character, like between the boots and the scope and the magazine and the grip, and it just feels a little like
lackluster.
It's just not exciting. Like there's no like, oh, look at this, like this totally will change the way I'm playing this character. Like look at this new thing I got. Like it's not like that. It's more like, yeah, this works for this guy because he's my damage dealer and this does more damage, like. So it's totally works and it's fine. It's just not too exciting.
Okay.
What else? The other major complaint that I have with the game is they do the old XCOM thing, which has changed over the years, of you might be just out of range of this pod, and if either of you guys have played XCOM games in the past, it's like the way the old XCOM games work, specifically like enemy unknown and enemy within. It's like you're navigating through this, it's like a fog of war basically, and you're moving your units up, and then all of a sudden when you get too close, then this group of enemies like sees you and then takes cover and then is like ready to fight.
Okay.
The reason that's frustrating is sometimes it might be like your last character's move and you move them up a little bit too far, and then all of a sudden a group of enemies pops in, and now all your guys have already moved and you can't like fire on these enemies. And now it's their turn and they're just gonna like wipe you, So like that stuff they changed with XCOM 2 because you're on the attack, because the narrative implication was like the aliens won, so they like you're the insurgents now,
Right.
So, but it afforded them a way to change the mechanic of that, so you are actually the one that's like sneak, like you can see a group of enemies and they won't like be alerted to your presence, so you can like sneak around. This feels like the old ones where you can't do that, so it really does feel random sometimes where you're like, come on, I moved this guy up 1 square too far and now these enemies see me. Like, come on. Like, it can definitely be frustrating, especially when it like comes back to hurt you. But that's really it as far as complaints. Like there is something about this game and the way that the systems work together that makes it so, it feels fresh and satisfying, even though the initial pitch is this is XCOM but with gears, and it's totally not. Like it feels fresh and it feels like these fights are exciting and fun. I just did the first boss fight of the game, And
Okay.
usually, like, tactics games, boss fights are really annoying because it's like, oh, here's this enemy and he's going to have all these crazy abilities and, whatever. And it's like, this boss fight was really, really, really fun. Like, I loved the way that it was designed, like, very well designed. And I just don't, like, I said the two things that are a little, about this game. The rest of it is amazing. Like, I love it.
That's great,
Good.
man.
Yeah, and I mean, it's good that you're feeling like that freshness from a game that obviously is taking
Right. Like,
so
it's
much
borrowing so
influence,
much, but it feels so different. And the mission types are very varied. Like, sometimes it's like, all right, there are these 2 points that you gain supplies from as long as you're within this circle. So you have to hold the point, but also enemies are spawning in and you have to survive. So, like, and then there's one where it's like, all right, you got to cross this long bridge. You know that there are going to be enemies as you continue fighting through the bridge, but you're like fighting your way across. And it's just the way it feels different, and the way your allies' abilities work together, and the chaining to give each other skill point or action points. It is so good. I haven't since like yesterday. I've played like 5-6 hours. I just can't put it down because it's so satisfying to play. Like, it's great.
I mean, it's definitely something I was interested in, like, looking at.
Yeah.
Even though I knew it was a totally different game, like going through the Gears series
Right. You
first
recently
time myself, I was
through
like,
the first three, yeah.
exactly. So I was like, all right, well, maybe when I finish all the rest of the games, or this is a prequel. Like, once I found that out, I was like, all right, I'd be interested in playing this.
Yeah. It is an excellent game, and I'm super happy with it. Again, I'm about, I don't know, 6-ish hours in. So it could be by the end it gets a little rote. I can't say that one way or the other. But the only other thing I'll say is there are definitely interesting nods story-wise if you're into that lore and whatever, which you just played the first 3, so I'm sure you'll find some of it interesting.
Right.
But the main character is Gabe Diaz, who is Kate Diaz's dad, who is like one of the main characters in 4 and 5.
Okay.
So definitely, a lot of nods to the series. So obviously, this feels like, so Chimera Squad is a $20 game, and it feels small and it feels bite size. That's not a bad thing, but it feels that way. This feels like a large campaign, like a big game.
All right.
And a lot of time, like, I just got to Act 2, and I can feel that they're still trickling out new stuff slowly. Like, I just came across my first boomer, and okay, boomer. But there was like you kill him and you can pick up his gun just like in the games.
Right.
So now I have 2 shots with this boom shot, and it completely changes how I'm going to play that game, And it's
right.
like,
So it's still getting into
so
depth.
it's still trickling out things after 6 hours, and that's the kind of stuff that I love. Like, when they're just kind of like changing the format little bits here and there to make you think differently about how the battlefield works. I just really like this game a lot.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah, it's such a nice surprise, and I mean, the game's on Game Pass, and it's it's a full $60 game, like, and it feels polished and large enough to warrant that. But the fact that it's on Game Pass is just like, you really got to play this game.
Right.
The only thing I'll say is it's only on PC. Like,
it's only on PC's Game Pass?
Yeah, it's only on PC, period.
Oh.
Yeah, like the game, I'm so curious how they come to this decision, because it works. Like, I tested it, I plugged in a controller and tested it as full gamepad support, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they're like, well, XCOM, XCOM 2 came to PC first for like a year or whatever. Like, it's a PC first kind of game with the tactics game, but it's like, it works just fine on a controller. Like, this should definitely be on Xbox One. I don't know why it's not.
Question: if you have Game Pass for Xbox, do you have Game Pass for PC?
There's
different things?
So they're different things, but there's a thing that you can get both for $15 instead of 10 and 10.
Gotcha.
So I obviously play a lot of these games on PC, so I have it for both.
Right.
But yeah, it's not on console, which is interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, I know this type of game is generally a PC game, but like I said, I don't know why, since it works so well on Gamepad, why they didn't just do it to console. But I actually need to check right now if I'm wrong about this.
Well, I feel like even if that is how it is at the moment, maybe it'll change down the line. Like maybe they were just trying to hit the target area, you know, like the demographic of people who play this style game might be playing it on PC.
Right.
So maybe they're trying to hit that demographic, see if it does well, and if so, spread it out to the Xbox. Because obviously, if it is a good game, which it seems to be, the Gears followers are, even though it's not a direct sequel in the Gears lineage, like they're going to want to play this game probably, you know?
Yeah.
So who knows?
Absolutely. See, I'm reading it now. I don't know if it's... Yeah, it doesn't even have a version for Xbox One yet. Okay, good. I was right. I think they're probably just like testing it out, seeing how it goes over on PC, and then they'll probably put it out on Xbox One. I don't know.
Yeah.
In a couple months, something like that. It's just curious to me because almost all of their games now have been, you know, day and date console and PC. So it's interesting to see this one be like, well, it's only on PC. So
That is
yeah. But if you have any sort of PC where you can get this running, even if you have a laptop, test, check the specs. But it is free on Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass on PC, obviously I highly recommend it. This is
right. And is this a $60 game otherwise?
Yeah, it is. And,
all right, so you're expecting a full experience then, which is good.
Yeah, and it definitely feels like it. I really like it a lot.
All right, cool.
So that was Gears Tactics. I have 2 other games here, but they're not going to take too long. Valorant. I'm still playing Valorant beta with my friends. I really like it a lot. It is so good. It is such a good version of this type of game. And the more I play it and the more comfortable I get with the maps and the weapons, like I think this game is really good.
good, man. Good.
Yeah, that's all you can hope for.
Yeah. The last one I have on this list is a new release. It's called Filament. It is it is a puzzle game where you play basically as like so the game starts with you on like a small space shuttle, and you get to this like space station. You hop on, and very Witness style, there's like this thing that you hit A on, and it's it puts you inside this little puzzle room, and you control this little like fuse looking thing. And the way that it works is so it's all third person like movement. So like you see your little fuse guy, and then you see the room. You grab a plug basically from the wall, and you have to have the wire of the plug touch all the they're basically towers sticking straight up out of the ground. And you have to have the wire touch all those towers in order for the door to open at the end. Huh. So what you're doing is like you're wrapping, because the physical wire, so you can like block yourself out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like
right.
You're trying to like snake your way through so that the wire touches every single one of these like towers to then power the door. Yeah, and then exactly, because you're not releasing that wire at the end, so you have to walk out the door with it, you know?
Right.
And it's very interesting. It's a very hard puzzle game. I probably put in an hour. Just wanted to touch it because it looked interesting. I think it's really good. I think the puzzles make you think a little bit differently than most puzzle games because of the wire concept. Because you can't just okay, I'm just gonna go back this way and snake it around. Like you can't get through because you just blocked yourself with the wire. It feels kind of it doesn't have much of a personality as a game. Like it doesn't have like a distinct style or specific, it's not that interesting stylistically, in my opinion. But the puzzles themselves have been very enjoyable. So it's kind of like, hey, if you like puzzle games, here's a small, interesting puzzle game. I played about an hour and I'm enjoying it. I just want to check because I'm playing it on Steam. I want to check what platforms it is on.
And what was the name of that again?
Filament.
Filament, right?
Yes. It looks like it's just on PC and Switch.
Okay.
That's what it looks like. That's what Google says, at least. Let me check. Wikipedia. Okay, nothing. All right. So it looks like PC and Switch. I enjoy what I played. I just kind of have been in a tactics hole with Gears, Chimera Squad, and honestly, Final Fantasy VII is very tactical as well.
Right.
So all that's scratching the same itch, but it's a big itch to be scratched. So I'm glad I have all this.
I'm glad you have someone to scratch that itch, Dan.
Yeah, me too, buddy. So unless anyone else has any games, I know that took a lot of time, but we had some big games to talk about. Let's jump into, I don't have much news. It's a bit of a light news week, so it worked out that we talked so much about those games. First thing, Fortnite. I know we're not big Fortnite players here, but they had a 3 days of Travis Scott concerts in Fortnite.
I saw
and
that.
It was so fucking cool. Like the visualization work that they did for these concerts is just like next level amazing. Like
wow.
you're maneuvering through the world while a giant Travis Scott is like performing and like changing the environment around him based on what song he's performing. And like he like stomps the ground and you go flying up in the air. It was so cool. I watched a video of it and was like almost going to download Fortnite because I wanted to experience the next one. It was so fucking cool.
Wow.
I think this is incredible that they're using, and this isn't the first time we've seen this. I mean, it keeps getting better and better. They did it for
like a Star Wars trailer.
That's what I mean. Like we're seeing Fortnite not only as this worldwide phenomenon and as a game, but it's a freaking social media platform now. Like they're sharing.
The thing that I love about it is they are looking at it and saying, hey, we have so many millions of players that play all the time. Mm-hmm. So like let's take advantage of that and let's like put people up. Like let's like get involved in things that people like, and they're fucking nailing it. Because that, I'm telling you, look up video if you haven't seen it. Holy shit, it was so cool. Like it was unbelievable to watch. And I'm not a Travis Scott fan, I'm not a Fortnite fan, and I'm like, this is awesome.
I gotta check that out then for sure.
Yeah, it was like a Child of Eden or like a Rez looking, like, the way the visualizers were going with the music and you like maneuvering through the world. All of a sudden like a different song comes on and you're underwater like swimming up, and his outfit kept changing. Like he had a spacesuit on at one point. Like it was just so cool. I couldn't get over it after I saw it. I was like, this is incredible. So I just wanted to mention that because I know none of us really play Fortnite. So I just want to shout out that they really do some cool stuff over there, even if it's not necessarily a game I want to play.
Right.
Last big piece of news, unless anyone wants to add anything, is the unfortunate news. Well, let's start out with The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima both have new release dates that were announced. So The Last of Us Part 2 is going to be out June 19th, so not too much of a push, just about a 20-something day push. Not too bad. Ghost of Tsushima, similarly, a little less than a month it got pushed, I believe. So we have June 19th for The Last of Us Part 2 and July 17th for Ghost of Tsushima. Here's the unfortunate part. Some story spoiler cutscenes were leaked online by a developer, and the big assumption that I'm seeing on a lot of articles about this is the developer who did the leaking is a little disenchanted with Naughty Dog as a studio in general, and we've heard things before, as we do with a lot of these studios, that the work, the work-life balance there is a little off, and then the amount of hours they were asking people to put in during the quarantine was substantial from what I'm hearing. So the implication is someone got angry and leaked all the cutscenes from the game online. So beware of spoilers if you are worried about that sort of thing, because I am. I don't want to see any of that.
I don't want to see any of that.
So I've been able to avoid them so far. It's just a shame. And the thing that sucks is the people that, so the person or people that lashed out by doing this probably don't have many avenues of which they feel they can lash out because, in a corporate society like that, I don't think they have a lot of power. Mm-hmm. So I can understand the desire to use what power you have. I just find it unfortunate for not only players that are being spoiled, but for other developers on the game who might be of the mindset of, hey, I also am not happy with the culture here, but I'm proud of the work and I want people to enjoy it. And I know for a fact there are a lot of people like that. So, it just sucks. It's a shitty situation. And the shittiest part is it could have been avoided altogether if Naughty Dog had taken their workplace culture a little bit more seriously. So that's the real shame of it is,
it's pushing people to do these things because,
yeah, exactly.
Like you said, there's no other. What else can they do, honestly?
Yeah, I'm always hesitant to say like, "Hey, you should have handled that better," because I'm like, well, they shouldn't have been in a position where they felt like they wanted to do this anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like I don't want to blame the person because, it's so hard to. Number one, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but number two, who can blame them necessarily? It all depends.
If you're pushed into that direction, there's obviously a reason to do something like that.
Exactly. So unfortunate, but just beware. I immediately went to Twitter and muted the words Joel and Ellie. I was like, I don't want to see anything.
Yep.
But I believe that's it for the news of what I was able to find. I don't know if anyone else had anything else. But those are the big ones. That brings us to our newest and favoritist segment, Top 5, Bottom 5. So what we're doing today is Top 5 jumps in games. So we're talking, what are the best jumps in video games? And I don't have to explain them because I'll just give you the list and you'll understand what I mean. Mm-hmm. This is the list that we have so far. We got to get it down to 5. Mario 64 crouch jump. That long jump, when you run, crouch jump. Yahoo! There it is. I have the Crackdown jump, where you can go as high as the buildings once you're fully leveled up. Ninja Gaiden, the old school ones with the flip jump. Kirby's endless jumping in Smash. Jack from Jak and Daxter's roll jump. We got Peach's hover in Super Mario Bros. 2. We have Assassin's Creed jumping off the high points, like the perches.
Is it like Leap of Faith? What do they call it?
Yeah, that's it, Dan. That's it.
Hey!
Nailed it.
Yeah. Those are some good jumps. We have DuckTales shovel jump. We have Banjo-Kazooie's backflip when you crouch and do backwards jump. And we have Yoshi's strenuous hover jump in Yoshi's Island. I think we all know the one.
Whatever his noise he makes.
There it is.
I got you guys on the sound effects today. Don't worry.
Thanks, buddy.
Climb on my
Appreciate the help.
back. I got you.
So those are our nominees for the top 5 jumps in games. I'm sure there are a ton of people screaming at their phones saying, how could you forget this one? And what I'd say to that is, these are the ones we thought of.
And to that I say, too bad.
Forgot them. Sorry.
I thought about putting in Samus's super jump, but I don't think it's of the caliber of a lot of these.
Well, we do this because it's fun, like we're not going crazy.
Yeah, of course. It's just a fun little conversation.
Yeah.
So, any jump out that you think should definitely be on the list, or should definitely not be on the list? What do you guys think?
Let me give you my pitch for the Scrooge McDuck shovel jump.
Let's hear it.
How many great games have taken
it? Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's the sign of a great jump. Like they say, if it's good enough that you steal it. Anything but Hollow Knight has it, Shovel Knight has it.
Yeah.
It's like
that is true. That is definitely true.
Scrooge McDuck shovel jump has to hang on, or at least not get cut off right away.
I do like the shovel jump. I would agree. I think the Mario 64 crouch jump is pretty good.
It's true. When you figure out how to do that, you just do it for like
pretty good.
Yeah.
One that I didn't add that I should have, and me and Dan were talking about it before, in Super Mario World, when you don't have quite the jumping capabilities to get across that a very large chasm, but you got a Yoshi, so you run, you jump, and then you jump off Yoshi to get a double jump, and Yoshi goes into the pit, and you make it up to the top of the cliff. That's a pretty good jump. The
you guys
sacrificial
are horrible
Yoshi,
and mean.
The sacrificial Yoshi jump.
Miss jump.
Iconic.
Very iconic.
It's also iconic.
I think one that I like but can probably go is the Banjo-Kazooie backflip.
Right.
I love it because, and I also think about there are jump pads in Banjo-Kazooie where like you do like a Kazooie's legs like bend all the way back. And you get,
I do like that one.
That's a pretty good one. But those jumps are both like pretty good, but there are definitely some in here that I'd rather have over that.
I think my favorite part of all the Banjo-Kazooie jumps is listening to Kazooie.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Mr. Doofenor, if you want to take that over.
All right, I think we're going to cut Banjo-Kazooie backflip there. Any others that you think might not hang on this?
I like the Ninja Gaiden jump. I don't know if it's, it's super cool. I like the flip. It feels good.
Pretty good jump.
I'm not familiar with this one. So
you
try and look it up real quick.
You like this like front flip, and I think you can attack too while you do it, right? You do this front flip attack jump. All right, now it's actually really cool.
He just sticks out the little blade. I will cut the Crackdown jump. Neither of you guys have played Crackdown, so I don't think that's going to make the cut. But it really felt good, especially when that game came out. Because, it's that open world GTA-ish feeling game. And then imagine you could jump as high as the buildings. And it looked like really good, like a superhero jump of where like flying through the air. It looks so good.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. What do you think about Kirby's endless jumping in Smash?
I think Kirby just has the ability to kind of fly.
I think that's fine.
Oh, you think it's flying? All right, so it's cut by technicality.
I said kind of flying because he does fall eventually.
But that's a lot of jumps. Most people can only do a triple jump at max.
That's true. It's definitely a take full advantage of that when you're playing Smash.
Yeah, absolutely. We all knew that Kirby player that would just fly above and just do the down B over and over again.
Yep.
Right, so we got Kirby just because it's actually a jump.
Yeah, Kirby's gone on a technicality.
What do we have left?
So right now we have Mario 64 crouch jump, Ninja Gaiden flip jump, Jack's roll jump, Peach's hover, Assassin's Creed off the what is it?
Leap of Faith.
Leap of Faith. DuckTales shovel jump, and Yoshi's strenuous hover jump. Assassin's Creed Leap of Faith. I'm changing. So that is 7. We got to cut 2.
I gotta say, I love Yoshi's strenuous hover jump.
It's really good.
It's one of my favorites now that I
think, yeah.
when we added it.
I really think that one's got to stay.
I agree. That one's too good, and too, because it's not even like it's like it doesn't do anything. It works, like it gives you that little extra effort.
It's also in Yoshi's story, right then.
Yeah, it's in all of them. Listen, Yoshi just gives its all the time.
Yeah, I believe you could do that in almost every Yoshi game.
Yoshi's a female or male? Do we know?
Lays eggs, so.
Female. So Yoshi gives her all the time.
Yoshi is
the truest now in all of the video games.
Yep, willing to take the dip into the pit.
I love Yoshi.
I think that Yoshi jump's got to hang. What do we think? We got to get rid of 2. I think Peach's hover is too good to get rid of.
Peach's hover is really
good. I only played as Peach in Super Mario Brothers 2 because of that hover. Like I that was my character.
Yeah, that's really good. What do you guys think? So talk to me about the Jack and Daxter. I'm not that familiar.
I was just thinking about cutting the Jack and Daxter roll jump because it's too similar to the Mario's
crouch jump.
Long jump. It's basically the same thing. Just instead of crouching, he rolls into a long jump.
Right.
There's really no difference to it.
It's cool looking. I like it.
It's super cool looking. What I like about it is that in every game you can do it, and if you watch the animation slowly, Daxter goes like flying around as he's trying to hold on to Jack while he does it. So it's like pretty funny to watch.
I mean, that's why 2 and 3 in particular, like they gain so much personality because the animation's so good.
Oh yeah, completely. Like even when you press circle and do like your spin kick, Daxter is frantically holding on to your shoulder, trying not to go flying away.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, I think for my money, I think that was the weak link out of this group.
Yeah, definitely. So as much as I love it, it's definitely got to go.
Did you check out the Ninja Gaiden flip jump?
I'm trying to find it on YouTube. I can't find it.
Just try doing like Ninja Gaiden NES gameplay, and they'll do the flip jump.
We gotta cut 1, huh?
Gotta cut 1. We got Mario 64 crouch long jump, Ninja Gaiden flip jump, Peach's hover Super Mario Brothers 2, Assassin's Creed Leap of Faith, DuckTales shovel jump, and Yoshi's strenuous hover jump.
All right, so bear with me for a second. Now, the Leap of Faith is really, really cool, but it doesn't. But like, what's the purpose of a jump? It seems like all the other jumps that we have are meant to get you, like, get you up.
Think about how long it took to scale that building.
I was just about to say it's the ultimate payoff.
Yeah, you got all the way to the top, and now you get to just jump back down instead of climbing back down. It's
and you're really threading the needle because most of the time you're jumping into the back of a cart.
Yeah, a bale of hay.
I don't know. I guess I just figured, you didn't jump up into that building.
I love the Leap of Faith, though. It is so good.
I'm looking at the Ninja Gaiden flip kick, and it's dope.
It's pretty good.
Basically, it looks like what they tried to do is every time you jump, you turn into a ninja star. Is what it looks like. So I love it.
It is pretty good. The problem is all 6 of these are very good.
Yeah.
And we got to cut 1.
Problem.
It's a hell of a problem.
Which is your guys' weakest link?
How about this? I think Yoshi, Mario 64, and Peach are locks.
Agreed.
Quite a franchise, huh?
Not bad. Pretty good jumping in those games. Pretty good jumping. So that would mean Ninja Gaiden, Assassin's Creed and DuckTales are the 3 that are eligible.
I guess the best thing about Assassin's Creed is the jump at the end of the faith.
That's what I was gonna say. That's the best part of the game.
Yeah, definitely. Especially in the first game where
I don't
you
think
spend
that
so much time traveling.
Yeah, I don't think that one can go. I
Right.
think that's so good and a perfect, like, it's just, yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And or DuckTales. Tough, man. I don't know. See, for me, I think DuckTales gets the historical points in that it's like how many people imitated that
It's so iconic.
one game. You know what I mean? Like,
I also think it's so the whole thing with the shovel jump is you're doing it off of enemies, right?
so you can, for platforming purposes, there might be an enemy that, there's a huge jump, but you got to land on that enemy just so right
Yeah.
for the other. Adds such a purpose to it.
I think Ninja Gaiden's the one to go here, even though it's very cool.
Ninja Gaiden is cool, but DuckTales has purpose,
The utility.
significance.
All right, guys. I think we have our 5.
All right.
So congrats to the top 5 jumps in video games. Mario 64's crouching long jump, Peach's hover in Super Mario Bros. 2, Assassin's Creed's leap of faith, DuckTales shovel jump, and Yoshi's strenuous hover jump in Yoshi's Island. Those are Circleback Gaming's top 5 jumps in games.
Love it.
We reserve the right to change this at any time.
Awesome.
And with that, that's going to do it for the episode. Thank you guys so much for joining me.
Thank you, bud.
Yeah, thanks
you,
for having
Dan,
us.
for being here.
Thanks for having us. I wish you guys stay safe, stay healthy, and everybody else listening, safe and
Thank
healthy.
you, buddy. Thank you, Shelby, for being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me again. Hopefully
And-
we don't end up in a point where we're doing more distance
Yeah, I know.
podcasts than we have real podcasts.
It's been going on for a while. We'll see. And thank you guys out there so much for listening. Keep your eyes and ears peeled. You may have a Final Fantasy spoiler cast in the near future. So listen out for that. And if not, in 2 weeks, you'll see a new episode. So until then, peace. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching and or listening. Just here to remind you that you can find us by searching for Circleback Podcast or Circleback Gaming on any of these podcast services: Anchor, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, or Stitcher. By God, I'm out of breath because of all these podcast services, but you can find us anywhere there. Also, you can find our video version on YouTube by searching Circleback Podcast or Circleback Gaming, and the rest of the videos we do. Thanks, guys.